Hi everyone, and welcome back to the next installment of my Minecraft screenshot series. Now, this is the Patronville edition. We left off with this screenshot of a peculiar looking diamond structure with ender dragon heads on it. But before I go into detail about the contents of this screenshot, let me take you on a trip back a few days prior to this screenshot. RelaxingASMR created a realm so that he could play with patrons of his in a Minecraft world. And he asked me to help him to construct this realm and get it ready for patrons or players. And the idea that he had originally was to construct a city so that everybody could have a residential lot and build a dwelling, as well as a business lot so they could build a business. And originally the plan was to maybe make some sort of a cul-de-sac, but it's kind of difficult to make a circular drive when you're limited to squares. So we eventually just laid out a grid and went from there. But when I first spawned into this world, I spawned on an island, and he left me a set of coordinates. I advised him to maybe scout out a flat plane, something that wouldn't take an insane amount of work to level. And this was the location that he found. And I had a look around and found a couple other areas, but this is the original location, and this is the one that we settled on. It was, for the most part, a nice flat plain, and it had a river in the southwest corner that I managed to turn into the Patronville Lake. And when I first got here, I built this, it's a compass, and this diamond tower. So, just past the ender dragon head on the right side, you can see some blue in the background. That is the river that eventually became the lake, I think. Not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Maybe not. No, never mind. But in this screenshot, you can see the compass and that diamond marker. In the top middle of the screen is another diamond marker. That is the 5-star Ravine. And that whole area these days is taken up by the baseball diamond. So this is pretty much the earliest overhead view of the Patronville area, and I'm not sure if R took any screenshots before we built the city. Now you can see some torches laid out going off to the left. That is Main Street before it was Main Street. Now this is a jungle. You can see my marker. And this jungle is west of the original spawn island. And I built a mining outpost here connected to my mini castle, which I built on the original spawn island. And I and I believe Cosby had a survival night on this island. And I'll post a link to that video in on the top right corner of the screen. So here you can see we, meaning R and I, started to lay out the streets. Originally we built the streets out of stone blocks. And a few months ago we decided to change all the streets over to gray concrete powder. They looked a lot more realistic than these streets, but these weren't too bad. And this, I remember this session. This I spent an entire night, an entire evening and an entire night. I did about a 12-hour session where I leveled the entire area that was the original city. And I built the boardwalk, the beach, the lake, all the streets, finished off all the streets, and sidewalks. So the next time that R logged on, most of the basic infrastructure of the city was already finished. Now these were my design for streetlights. And to be honest with you, I prefer this version of the end rod with the purple at either end instead of the gray that it currently is. And these streetlights double as telephone lines. So you can see here that I have the lake that I built, and the bottom is still all a bunch of different types of blocks. It was a few weeks later before I leveled the lake and put the sand bottom into it. And there you can see the power lines. I'm not entirely sure how the power lines or or for that matter these light posts, I'm not too sure if they even exist anymore. I know R was playing around with a few different designs of these. And I think he might have done away with all of these style of light posts, and I know I saw that in his most recent realm video. It's my Minecraft got kind of funky. But if these light posts are gone, it is his realm, but it'd be kind of sad to see them go. But no matter. So back there is, you can see where I leveled that that land. And this was before I knew about the fill command, where you can fill blocks with air. So all this was done by punching out the dirt blocks one by one. Actually, that's how this entire area was leveled manually. It took quite a long time. I put quite a few nights into getting this city leveled and built, and this area outside where you can see this dirt, I didn't really want to leave it like that, so that's why I originally built the big wall all the way around the city, so that we didn't have to be looking at these dirt cliffs, for lack of a better term. You can see I didn't build the lake over here yet, but I got to it. And there's the finished lake, and the streets. And this was the cul-de-sac idea originally. Needless to say, that did not work out. And that little building in the back is just a tool shed. So here's a shot as I put a sidewalk in. And I believe at this point, all the sidewalks and streets were in. Yeah. So, except for the streets leading down to the beach by the lakefront lots. But originally there were going to be 11 players, including R&I. So there were 11 residential lots and 11 commercial lots. Or 12 and 12, I think. Could do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 and 12. And we built the post office and city hall. So that brought it down to 11 and 11. It's kind of neat seeing the city before anything was built. And of course, all the area around this city is all developed these days. Early on, I built a rather extravagant system of getting around, as you can tell. But in the end, we decided on doing away with this system and just having a winding snake-like trolley. This setup actually enabled a rider to start off in one place and get to another by means of different switches and tunnels underneath streets. But it was kind of a complicated setup. And it did clutter up the streets, something fierce. The chests and torches and signs, those are full of our equipment. And there's the wall built. And if you take a look on either side of the walls, up by Main Street, there are two kind of lights in the middle of the road. Now that was the county boundary before we built the county line out of sea lanterns. So those didn't last too long, but they live on forever in this photograph, or this screenshot. I'm not too sure which gate this is. Actually, it is the old north gate. So the lot down at the bottom left of the screen, that's where City Hall is now. And you can see beyond the wall, there's the old county marker. And the entire area around that county marker, that's phase 2. That was the second development of Patronville. And that is pretty well developed these days. This area here still looks pretty similar. This is the northwest corner. Now there's a road around here, but it doesn't look that much different these days. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that, because these days this isn't a corner because of phase 5 on the other side. So this corner doesn't exist anymore. So there's an overhead view looking to the southeast. I always thought that this city was so big when we first built it. But the current city is, by comparison, mammoth. Nice shot of the beach and the gardens. There's R having a conversation with a llama. And here we are inside City Hall. I had just finished developing the interior. Now, when R built City Hall, it was just an empty shell. And I kind of built a staircase, a grand staircase, leading up to his office in the penthouse suite. Here's a chandelier. And here's my office in the basement. Excuse me. And this is my office before I really did any developing. I always thought that this room was a pretty cool looking room. So yeah, City Hall was the first building constructed here in Patronville. But others followed before too long. Now this is the subway. After I dismantled my trolley system above ground, R and I talked a little bit about building a subway underneath the city that ran underneath all of the city streets. But after giving the matter some consideration, we decided on building a subway system that led to outposts outside the city. Mining outposts, specifically. So this is the first subway station under construction. And as most of you know, this first level goes to the eastern ravine, which at the time was outside the city walls. These days it lays below Phase 2 and the 5-star ravine. And this is the first mining outpost that I built. I built it out of bedrock, so during survival play, nothing can break into it. And this is the eastern ravine outpost. I happened upon this ravine by dropping into a small hole in the plain just outside of Patronville. I found an abandoned mine shaft and followed it to this ravine. Most of the subway stations, mining outposts that I built, I built them all, I styled them all similar to this one, just to maintain a theme. So there's the living quarters down below. And here is my house. I think I just finished it, or I was just finishing it. I was going for kind of a log cabin type of a deal, like an old hunting lodge. And interior-wise, my house is pretty much identical these days as it was back then. Here's my boat launch. And the back of my house. You can see a diamond tower in the distance. That marked the eastern ravine. And there's City Hall and R's old house. Now there's R in front of my house with a block of dirt in his offhand. I remember that he was trying to get it out. It took a while. And in the background, you can see my original, it was going to be a bank building. I've since demolished that. Well, first I built a glass skyscraper on top of it. And then you can see R's roller coaster going up. It's flying somewhere. Here's R meeting the mushroom cows in the farm below my commercial building, which at this point I had turned into a store. And these guys provided steak as well as mushrooms to sell at the store. Now here's one of the Nether Fortresses. Early on, I built a railway in the Nether, connecting 4 Nether Fortresses. And I built it the only way that I really knew how, which, same as in my survival world, I built it completely encased in cobblestone, making it gas-proof. I don't think anybody has used that railway since we opened the realm to the patrons. Now, here is the elevator at the top of R's roller coaster back in the early days. This is kind of a nice screenshot. Shows you how far he's come. I like the sunset in the background. Now, R didn't want to be the only skyscraper in the city, so he asked me to add some height to my store, and this is what I came up with. I love the way that this building looks, but as things progressed, I grew increasingly tired of my useless, empty shell of a building. But at this stage, it's a very nice looking, in my view anyway, a very nice looking glass skyscraper. Not too sure where I'm going in this. So here's a view from the northeast corner. There's an old battle station, City Hall, and my tower. And there's R's finished roller coaster. Now, early on, I developed my the beach in front of my house, but shortly after this, I put the sand back. It is a public beach, after all. My intention when I built these lakefront lots was that I would get one, and R would get one, and one other lucky player would get one, and these would be private beaches. But R decided that they would be public beaches and asked me to put the sand back, which I did happily. And this is after I finished planting the trees along the avenues, or the streets, rather. No, the avenues. The avenues run north to south, whereas the streets run east to west. And I alternated, so on one street I would have jungle, next spruce, next oak, birch, and so on and so forth. And along the outer edge of the city I planted giant trees, like giant spruce, giant jungle, and dark oak. Turned out pretty nice. I like some of these early nighttime screenshots. I especially like the way that my skyscraper looks at night. I have a row of sea lamps all the way up to the top. Really lights the building up nicely. And here's where I was putting a sand floor in the lake and making everything nice and level. This was a pretty big job. Like I said, this was before I knew about the fill command. And even these days, I prefer to do things manually. We had a bit of a problem with a fill command that went kind of ugly. I think Mason, if you're watching this, you might recall that was a bit of a nightmare. I tried to keep it together, and we kept it together, and we repaired all the damage, but it was kind of a bit of a fiasco. All good in the long run, though. Here's one of the river gates looking out across the lake. Here's the North Wall battle station. This is still standing. I've been thinking maybe of tearing this down and building just a regular battle station on one of the other, like maybe across from phase 2 or something. But this is still there, and it's kind of a unique facility. It has 3 levels. In the basement there's a battle trench. On the main floor there's kind of a killing zone, built the same way as the killing zones at my compound in my survival world. That always seemed to work really well. And on the upper level is a balcony that is used for archery practice. Now here's a glitch looking down into my basement. And there's some caves that you can see. Some of them are lit, some of them aren't. I did some intensive exploring in and around Patronville prior to us opening the realm. I lit up all the caves I could underneath the city. I always got a kick out of this screenshot, this pig with the lamppost running through his head. Yep. This shot almost, it almost looks like my skyscraper is taller than ours, but it's not. Mine is, I think 78 blocks, whereas ours is over 100. There's my house. Originally I was going to take this center lot. I insisted that R take it, but he didn't end up taking it. He took the his current lot, and I was going to take it, but then I decided to build right next to the wall, because then I could maybe build a balcony overlooking the top of the wall so I could shoot monsters on the other side of the wall. But as the city expanded, that kind of fell by the wayside. Now there's R at my desk inside my store. Taking a nighttime stroll down the boardwalk. In the town where I grew up and spent most of my summers, we had a boardwalk down along the lake. And it went for a pretty fair distance, and the boardwalk, it stretched back, or dated back to the early 1920s, where there was a midway, the big wooden roller coaster, and all kinds of fairground rides. And see, the town, the railway built the town as a lakeside destination for the upper class of our city, but it eventually turned into a popular family retreat through the years. And these days, the town council, they were going to restore the boardwalk, but instead they took the cheap way out and ripped up all the nice planks and just built basically a big glorified sidewalk. So now the whole boardwalk is just a concrete sidewalk. So I'd like to meet the project manager face to face and give him a piece of my mind. But at least here in Patronville we have a nice boardwalk. And at some point when I regain access to Minecraft and get back into Patronville, I'm going to build a midway. I recently leveled some land outside of the city wall in preparation for that. It's across from the baseball diamond. There's a sunset. Some more caves underneath the lake. There's a big ravine. And we prohibit mining underneath the city. So I went through these caves and I had the coordinates of the city wall. So when I got to where I was directly underneath the city wall, I put a sea lantern and a sign saying city limits. So here I am at the bottom of that tall ravine. These days, a player, I believe it was Destiny King, built like a dungeon below their house, pretty nearby this ravine, with a jail housing some poor villagers. And here's a magic floating block of water. This generated like this. It's kind of neat. I don't think I've ever seen something like this anywhere. It's still there. Is it still there? It might be. No, it's not. This is the area that Lighthouse Park currently occupies. And this is a spawner that R and I kind of renovated and built a not a bad little killing outfit. And this area is featured in a video of clips from this realm, and I'll post the link to that video in the top right corner if you're interested. There's a creeper. He's come up to check and see what all the fuss is about. I think he heard some zombies getting slayed and wanted in on the action. And that cave down there is pretty well lit up, but he still managed to generate. Here's another glitch. You can see that's the 5-star ravine down there. Another shot of my house in the old days. Sunrise. Or sunset. Sunset, yeah. Now this area is these days it's all developed. But back here, this west wall, there was a county road leading to a kind of a fishing station with spruce trees all the way along, and kind of a little tree farm, and a battle station. Now, back in the distance is a village that I walled in, and I built a a little outfit where I bred racing horses. And below that, these days we have a underground mall and a horse racing track, but back when this was taken, I don't think any of that existed yet. No, it didn't. I was just building my my little complex. I was kind of going for a Winterfell sort of vibe with this place. These days, all of this area in front of my fort, it's all developed. It's all part of the city. But back then, it was pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Now there's the county line. And the purpose of the county line was to kind of keep people's builds, to build a buffer zone between the city and people's builds. Now, with permission, players can build things inside the county. For example, the baseball diamond, the Lighthouse Park, that was built by a player. The lighthouse was built early on by me, but the park was built by somebody. The graveyard that Sev built. I'm to this day I'm still not sure who built the sandlot. And there's also a nuclear reactor that somebody built inside the county. My fort is just outside, literally 1 block outside the county line. And it's a big rectangle. It used to kind of go off on a tangent out east a little ways before it looped back, but I got rid of that and just made it one big rectangle. There's some fish in the ocean. And I think right around here is when we got our first couple of players. And you can see a zombie down on the beach that I was getting ready to snipe with the trident. Here's looking down towards the west in the old stable. Here's the 5-star ravine. Back when you could look out and see the moon. These days there's a floor covering the entire ravine because the baseball diamond is on top of it. The stairs go up to a zombie spawner and the Henry McDougal Handle Memorial. And the mining outpost is to the left, back down that abandoned mine shaft a ways. And there's a bunch, and that's why I built the city wall, so that they couldn't get inside the city. The original plan was, once the 11 players had built their house and business, we were going to change the game mode to survival and keep it that way. So the city needed to be able to function in a survival setting. But as it happened, we ended up having too much fun building, so we settled for a survival night once every couple weeks, and those gradually faded away. But recently I built a survival realm so that the players of the creative realm would have a place to play survival with everybody. It's kind of ironic that a week after I start that realm and I get locked out of my Minecraft account, but that's neither here nor there. That'll get sorted in a while. Now the bottom of the lake was awfully dark, so I put some sea pickles down in neat rows to kind of light things up a little bit. And here we have Son of HD and Terrawinds. We refer to them as Sono and Taro. Now they were our second and third citizens. Now Sono is our Postmaster General and resident redstone expert, and Taro has since moved away. But we still have his house and his skyscraper, and they're not going anywhere. If you build something in Patronville, you rest assured it's gonna stick around. We don't demolish anything. Now our first citizen was Pink Thief, and she's the city director of hospitality, and she's actually my neighbor. She used to keep a pet zombie in her basement, but he escaped one night, and well, I prefer not to talk about that. It's kind of classified. And now it's you can recognize it's the city more as it is these days. You can see City Hall in the back corner. To the left of City Hall is Vav Apartments. This was back when it was a nice place, when all of us were kind of getting units in that apartment, but gradually it kind of fell. There were some questionable landlords that let pretty much anybody in, just as long as they promised not to vandalize the building or anything of the sort. But then to the left of that is Jazz's Bank. There's R's roller coaster on the left, and then my skyscraper on the right, and in the middle is the Desoto Hotel. It's a really, really nice hotel. And that was built by Desoto, the same guy who built the post office. And he's Pink's neighbor. He had the third lakefront lot. Now this is the main lobby of the horse racing track, and I built it big and open because we were going to be having riding horses through here. So in this entire horse racing room, we cleared it the old-fashioned way, and it took a long time. Almost as long, actually no, longer. It took longer to clear this than it did to clear the level of the city. It was a big job. Now here we are on Main Street looking east. The lot on the left is the home of Sono's Wizard Tower. That's that building that looks like a giant cuckoo clock. Past that red one is Cosby's Emporium. It's like a big gymnasium, big fitness center. Past that is the Patronville Church, built by Trevor. Now behind that you can see the bank, built by BH Jazz. The skyscraper across from the church, the one that's kind of gray and white, that's Taro's skyscraper. That these days it's the Patronville Professional Center. And then the white and pink building is the Patronville General Hospital, built by Pink Thief. And the building to the right is Labs, built by Crazy Legs. There's a lot of strange stuff that goes on there. Now, in the distance is Labs City. It's a big compound. It's an interesting place. If you've never checked it out, if you're a citizen and you've never seen it, I encourage you to go over and check it out. You can either walk there or take the trolley, or there's a subway on level 2 that leads to Lab City. There's a hotel and a water slide and all kinds of neat things there. Now I like Patronville at night. It's a pretty nice city to walk around at night, especially since there aren't any monsters that can spawn. Now this, judging by the jungle trees and these benches, Phase 2, well, not even that. If we scroll back here, this is all Phase 2. This was the second development of Patronville because all the original lots were filled up, so we needed more, so we built Phase 2, which is basically a mirror of the city minus the lake. This was built to the east of the original city. Now these jungle trees are on the boulevard of Park Avenue. And this is Trevor's Bifrost Bridge and his glass village in the sky. Now Trevor has some really, really insane builds in the realm. Like this is a glass tunnel with water cascading down all the way around it. It's pretty neat. Very neat, actually. Now here we are inside the bridge, and the cool thing about this is it goes for hundreds of blocks. And not only does he have tunnels above ground, but he also has tunnels below ground and below oceans. And he has bases underwater that he's built. And yeah, this is a really cool place. Now here's a view of of Parker Street from Taro's house. There's his skyscraper and the hospital. Ours roller coaster. Here's looking up at the moon. The house with the end stone brick belongs to BH Jazz. And here I was kind of building a barrier underneath the wall, the city wall. And finishing off the Phase 2 stable. Now this is BH Jazz's getaway house out in the middle of the ocean. And right next door is the spawn island with the mini castle that I built. And this is like a small scale representation of ours survival castle. But I took some creative liberty with the design. I couldn't build it exactly like it, but there are some definite influences. And of course, below ground, I tried to replicate his mines from memory, and I did the best I could, but on a smaller scale. And I was quite lucky that with the topography below the ground, that there was a ravine directly underneath the small little building that I built by the battle trench, just like there is in ours survival world. So this is the battle trench. And the house. There's a little fountain and flower garden. Now you can see how small the city is. You can see the original city is all developed on the left, and then that whole area of empty lots, that's all Phase 2. No baseball diamond, no county pool, no nothing. You can see on the left of the map there's Cosby's pirate ship and the pirate village. And I like looking through this stained glass window at my skyscraper. I think it looks pretty neat. And there's another shot of it. Now, I'm not entirely sure what R is doing in my chair. It looks almost like he's dropping a deuce. Let's just kind of skip that. Now, I'm mining something here, not too sure what. Maybe making a tunnel somewhere. Now, this is Trevor's old house. It was kind of a tent. Basically, it's all it was. And there's Vinny's house beside it. He demolished this and built a really, really cool compound. Now this is the the old Shipwreck Mine. This mining outpost is underneath Labs City and is accessible by taking the Labs City subway on the second level underneath City Hall. It's all since been developed, and we actually did a survival night here, and I'll post a link to that video on the top right if you're interested in seeing that. Now, this is one of Trevor's glass railways leading off into the unknown. Now, here we are on the corner of what was then Lakeshore Drive, now it's North Lake Drive, and 6th Avenue. Now, the little tiny house behind is Sono's, but don't let the size fool you, because it's quite expansive down underneath. And his neighbor is Vinny. I've always loved that house. And the post office is on the left, and behind the post office is Mason's Fire Hall. There's Trevor's tent. There's a view looking up at some of the skyscrapers. There's mine and Desoto Hotel and ours roller coaster. And the office building, I think, and there's Vav Apartments and City Hall. Now, this is survival at the mini castle, and I also have a video of this, and it was a pretty fun time. It's I guess kind of as close as one can get to a survival night at ours castle without actually being in ours castle. And I have a video of this, and if you're interested in taking a look at that, I'll post the link in the top right corner. After this survival night, there were some shortcomings in the design that I fixed. Another nice shot of the moon. There's my house on the left, and the old South Wall battle station on the right. That's long gone. That's all lots these days. And the Memorial Drive trolley stretching way off. Corner of Main Street and 6th Avenue. There's a shot of Labs. That place gives me the creeps, and for a good reason. Now, all that land outside, beyond Labs, that's all lots these days. That's what we refer to as Phase 5. You can see a tree farm down there. Here's the church on the left and the office building on the right. Now, this is the office section, the reception area of the Patronville Professional Center. Nice shot looking south. And that whole area back behind the wall, that's all developed. That's phases 3 and 4. And there's houses all the way back there, and businesses, and the jail. There was a mining outpost just outside the wall called the Safe Mining Caves. These days, those caves are accessible from the underground village mining outpost. Another shot of reception. And here's looking down from one of the windows in the office building. That's a long way down. Very long way down. But we're not even halfway to the top of ours roller coaster. Now here's the lobby of the professional center. And Crazy Legs' crazy house. It's kind of a neat house. It's got a lot going on down below. Now there's Mason's fire hall in the distance, and this is when Mason was building his house. And he did a real good job on both of his builds. Now Mason had a hand in building the baseball diamond, and he built the hockey arena. I believe him and Jazz worked together on the baseball diamond. But as far as I know, the hockey arena was all him. And that both of them turned out sensational. There's R&I overlooking Jazz's getaway house and the mini castle. Now this is phase 4 right here. We're standing in phase 4. Now phase 4 and phase 3 are built here and ready to go. And that area out there is where phase 5 currently is, and it's not developed yet. This county road leads to the Oak Lane, which leads to my fort. Now here's 6th Avenue, corner of 6th and Memorial Drive, and my house right behind the tree. Here's a nice shot of the baseball diamond during construction. And a nice view of the city skyline. Yeah, that baseball diamond turned out really impressive. Now the area directly to the right of the baseball diamond currently has a big hangar with a blimp. And that forest to the left of the baseball diamond is the land that I leveled in preparation for the Midway construction. And there'll be a Ferris wheel and a carousel and different board games at some point. Now there is the finished baseball diamond. They did one heck of a good job. And this is the the public food pantry in City Hall with for smokers to cook food, and all of the barrels are stocked full of food, just in case anybody needs some steaks or some apples or cookies, anything we have. It's free for all civilians. It's in the basement of City Hall. There's another shot of the mini castle. And my version of ours chicken ranch. Now these guys were making the gameplay lag something awful, so R and I, we harvested all these chickens. That was a dark night indeed. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna use this as the screensaver for this video. Another shot of the mini castle. You recognize the observation tower and the battle trench and the little building with the ravine down below. That was very lucky. I know R, he told me in the past that he prefers this to his castle, but as far as I'm concerned, his castle is... there's nothing that can touch it. And it was actually his video introducing us to his castle that got me into playing Minecraft. So of course I'm going to have that view regarding his castle. Now there's a nice shot of downtown Patronville. And back to the mini castle. I did some work to this island. I fixed the pens. You can't see it in this screenshot, but you will in one of the upcoming ones. And this building was to be a mining outpost, zombie spawner, and chicken ranch all in one. And I built a scale model of ours second original mining outpost at the jungle across the way. And that's the jungle that was in an earlier screenshot where our Cosby and I had a survival night. Here's the glass ceiling looking up at the egg launching platform of the chicken ranch. I kind of like this mini castle. It's from the inside of the compound. It looks a lot bigger than it actually is. It's pretty small. It's like maybe a third ours actual castle, and like 1/10 the size of my compound in my survival world. But it's cozy, and just goes to show that bigger doesn't necessarily mean better. Now this neighborhood is starting to get well developed. There's my house on the right and Pink's house on the left. Vinny's house across the way, that's the white one. And to the right of Vinny's, that dark prismarine one with the waterfall, that's Trevor's. He got rid of his tent and built that real neat house. It's a very, very cool house. I think R did a tour of that house, and I'll post the link to that in the top right corner. I highly encourage you to check that out. Here's an overhead view of the mini castle. This is the Jungle Outpost. There's a nice view of Desoto's Hotel and ours roller coaster with the updated light gray glass windows. They don't give as much contrast as the clear glass did. You can actually see through them. There's Vav Apartments. Another view of the mini castle and Jazz's house in the background. Was that developed like that? No, this is after I redeveloped those the chicken ranch lots and kind of fancied up this outpost building a little bit. So these days I have chickens and cows and sheep and pigs at this outpost. Now there's a restaurant that I built. This strip of lots, we ran into a bit of a snag with zoning, so we had to we came up with a compromise of mixed residential and commercial lots for this stretch, because the lots past this area are residential, so we didn't want to have an immediate jump from a 20-foot tall residential building to a 75-foot tall commercial skyscraper. So we zoned this to be a mixed use lot where you could build around a 45-foot tall business on the main floor with residential on the upper floors. And this was kind of a demo building. One day when this lot is needed, I'll demolish this building so that somebody can build on it. These days I took off the upper level, and it's just a single-story diner. But there's a cigar lounge and restaurant next to this, and a laundromat on the other side these days. There's Labs City in the background. It's not too bad. Out of all the biomes in Minecraft, I like these the most. It's where I live, it's one of the top 5 coldest cities in the world, consistently ranked. And in certain times throughout the winter, it's actually colder in our city, or in my city, than it is on Mars. But this forest, It kind of reminds me both of home, of the farm, and also my Minecraft survival world is built very near one of these biomes. I just love the snow, the falling snow. And the spruce trees. So I built a compound in this forest. It's quite a ways away from the city. I have a teleportation book that really cuts down the journey. It's quite a ways away. And I'd always meant to have a survival night here, but never gotten around to it yet. So one day, maybe. Now here's R and I inside Vav Apartments. We have our armor on because we got into a few altercations with some of the tenants. I think he was helping me move out of my unit, which is on the right. And I appreciate him doing that. Now, I was building a patio on the back of my house in this, and there's the finished product. And you recognize that as the place where we start and finish most of my realm videos from. Now here's, we're standing at the top of the lighthouse, looking out over Lighthouse Park and the baseball stadium. And this is a view looking down at the Phase 4 beach from the upper floor of Cordell's house. Now, Cordell is the owner of the Graystone publishing company that prints our newspaper, the Graystone Gazette. And I'm not sure if... Well, this is in my survival world in a tunnel. I'm guessing that this was an accidental screenshot. I was probably trying to find coordinates and I hit F2, and actually that's how I originally started taking screenshots, was by completely by accident. So I'm guessing that's what this is. Another shot of my target practice room in my survival world. There's a shot of the south battle trench in my survival world, looking out over that wintry forest that I love so much. I was always intrigued by that one big spruce tree that you can kind of see standing there. Here's the land bridge and the horse tunnel, and a nice shot of the moon. Now we're back in the realm. There's the lighthouse and Lighthouse Park. It's a really nice developed park. It's as nice as Patronville is. To take a nighttime stroll in this park is the place to be in that regard. You can see how nice it is at night. Those sea lamps are the county line. So this portion of the park is actually just outside the county line. Now that building there, that's Graystone Publishing Company, and it's one of my favorite buildings in the city. And you can see the light show from the beacons. We've since done away with the beacons to try to make things look a little bit more realistic. Let me know in the comments if you've seen the city without the beacons, and now you're seeing it with the beacons. Which do you prefer? I'm curious, I must admit. I almost, seeing this, I almost kind of prefer it with the beacons. Now, here I am building one of the subways. I'm not too sure which one this is. Here's my skyscraper. Here's the bowling alley. I built this bowling alley in a couple hours, and it actually turned out quite well. Now, it's not functional, but it is pretty neat. And in all the malls that I used to spend my childhood in, they all had arcades and bowling alleys. The one thing this mall's missing is a movie theater. Maybe one day someone will build one down here. This is in the underground village. And if you're interested in seeing this in a video, I'll post a link in the top right corner of the screen. And this is the underground village subway station, mining outpost, and in the bottom left you can see the food court. And these days there's a roller coaster here also. And I have a video where we ride that roller coaster. And I'll post a link to that. I know I'm repeating myself a lot. I'll post a link to that video in the top right corner. It's a pretty neat roller coaster. You should definitely check it out. Here's my house at 22 6th Avenue. Excuse me. There's a county road that somebody built. It's not really a county road, it's a road outside the county. Now there's a fish tank that I accidentally destroyed. Let's rather not talk about that. And we're back at the bowling alley. Here's a ravine somewhere, probably underneath the city. It's a pretty long ravine. Very long, actually. Now this is Descrunge's tree fort, a little ways outside the city. Now this is a neat build, very neat build. a shot of the light show at night. Now here are some medical offices. There's a medical center and a dental center. This is in the underground village. Now there's the city, and on the right you can see Phase 5 has been leveled. And it's lit up by all these jack-o'-lanterns. And this is the redstone circuitry for an arena that Glenn and Son of HD built. This is kind of near the casino. It's an interactive arena. I think Glenn built it, but Sono did the redstone work. Now Glenn built the casino outside the city, and he did just a fabulous job, and it's a fully interactive casino. I was building some kind of a tunnel. There's Memorial Drive in Phase 5. And there's some of the new houses, so you can see my house on the left. And then that White House, I think that belongs to Death the Kid, but I could be wrong. Then the one next to that, that wooden one, is Destiny King's house. That's the one with that dungeon in the basement. And next to Destiny King, the one with the thatched roof, that is Cordell's. And the one next to that, along Levenger Street, is I think that one is that's DeScrunge's house, and the one next to that is Glenthony's house, and then Sev's house, and then a player named and I hope I'm saying this right, Bihimosu. That's their house there. Now, DeScrunge and Sev both rebuilt their houses, so these two, they don't exist in this form anymore. They're a little bit different these days. Now my render distance isn't set very far, so I apologize for that. And here I am, standing on top of the post office, with the city skyscrapers as a nice backdrop. Whoa. Not too sure what's up with those. I was hoping to get the all the buildings in this, but it didn't quite turn out that way. It's along Lakeshore Drive, along the boulevard. There's one more commercial lot. That lot next to Labs, or actually two more. There's a commercial lot next to Labs and one next to Sono's Wizard Tower that are vacant. if you're interested in building a commercial building on one of those lots, I encourage you to head on over to RelaxingASMR's Patreon and join at the Minecraft tier level, which would give you access to not only this creative realm, but also the survival realm. Here's one of the fountains. Now, I think this is right around the time when the evil villain started making some havoc. As the Scrunch was mentioning that some strange stuff has been happening in the realm, I think this coincides with the arrival of that evil pest. Now this is in my store, the Outback Saddle and Tack in the underground village. I was fixing the elevator. Now here's a nice shot of a coral reef. This Minecraft coral is really, really nice. And here's a suicidal snowman warming himself by the fire. Now this is that compound in that snowy biome. And these guys generate naturally. And I kind of came in here, and here he was. He spawned in this room. Now this is a giant compound that I built that I call the Patron Fort. Now this is kind of a predecessor to the survival realm, in that this was a place where the citizens could come and play survival if they wanted to. It's a fully stocked compound of considerable size, with a really nice battle trench and a house and cabins and villagers to trade with and all kinds of amenities. And I did a video of this Patron Fort, and once again the link is in the top right description if you want to, or the top right corner, if you want to check that out. It's a pretty neat place, and it's the cool thing is this channel that you see going where the bridge kind of goes over top, off to the left, it's a straight shot to City Hall, but it's thousands of blocks. You don't want to get caught out here at night in survival mode. You may not live to tell about it. And there's an overhead view. I had to level this island, and I built this compound, and it's quite substantial. It's probably similar size of the first rendition of my survival compound, which is saying something. It's pretty big. And it's a lot of fun to play survival here. Speaking of my survival compound, here's a shot overlooking my tree farm. You can see my llama hut off to the left and my A-frame battle trench. And this is my gold farm. It's not a real gold farm, but it's a place where the pigmen can come and I can kill them and get their gold. And once again, I have a video on that, and the link will be in the top right corner. And this is in my survival world. And it's very simple, very straightforward, but very productive. And here's my blaze farm. This was a difficult thing to build, but it was so worth it. So worth it. And this is an Avomance design. And another shot of my target range in my survival compound. Another shot of the pigmen about to get slaughtered. Another shot of the blaze farm in my survival world. And here's a giant chicken that I built. And this giant chicken sits on top of a mining outpost. And R and I, we did some work in this mining outpost. And I'm not going to bother posting the link to that, but if you're interested in that video, it's the one. The screensaver is it's got a bunch of pink in it. Or you know what? Maybe I will post the link in the top right, just to make things a little easier. And here is the inside of that horrifying abandoned mineshaft below the giant chicken. You can see R at the top of the screen. This is a big cavern. Yeah, this is the that pink thing. This is the screensaver for that video. This is I think the girls, they went and built this labyrinth of passageways. It's a massive complex. And this is a pink room that terrified R and I. There was no way out. It took forever to find our way out. I've never looked at the color pink the same way after my encounter with this room. Not too sure where this is. Somewhere in the realm. Oh yeah, this is Henry McDougal Handle's compound. And there is Chris Haraldson, my survival world character, in his bedroom, in his survival compound. There's Chris Haraldson outside of, standing beside a tractor. More on that in the future. And there's Chris standing outside of his Arctic outpost after he left his compound in search of Henry McDougal-Handle. There's a pink sheep that I found that generated naturally. I didn't dye him, it's the first pink sheep I've ever seen in the natural world. Now this is probably the biggest ravine I've ever run across in Minecraft. It's very long. Where you can see to the end, it curves to the left and then goes out of sight, and then curves to the right and goes out of sight again. This was during my I filmed this ravine during a video that I titled Underwater House Build, and I always intended to return and finish that build, but the book that I wrote down the coordinates of that I lost. So I don't know where this is. Maybe one day I'll run across it by chance. But to everyone who was waiting for me to finish that build, I do apologize. But unless I happen across this location again, I don't know how I could finish it. Maybe I'll start a new one once I regain access to Minecraft. Yeah, here's more of that massive ravine. And more of it. This is all one ravine. Now here's Chris, standing in his house in the sky. Now I'll post a link to that video in the top right corner. And Chris in a ravine / abandoned mineshaft that he did a Halloween video special. And I'll post a link to that video as well in the top right corner of the screen. Now this is one of his survival outposts. And here he is on a mountainside. Now he's not dressed for the weather, but he's a pretty tough old bird, or a pretty tough old guy. And here he is in one of his outposts. And this is that same outpost after he did some work to it. He's got his furnaces blazing away. Here's looking out over the ocean. It's kind of a cozy outpost. I don't mind it in the slightest. Now there's R and I in one of the city subway terminals. And this is what's known as, I think it's called the Void. It's one of Sono's projects. Now this is it's a proper void. He removed all of this land, and heaven help the poor unfortunate soul who stumbles into here. Because it's a long way down. It's a nice sunset from my back terrace. And there's me coming through the secret door to Henry McDougal-Handle's Hanover mining outpost. And there's the diamond wall of the Henry McDougal-Handle Memorial below the 5-star ravine. And there's a shot of me on my back terrace. There's an island that I figured might make an interesting survival place. This island is actually very familiar to a lot of you. But you'd never seen it like this. Check out the sandbar, kind of at the top, in the kind of behind the island, that island of sand. That's all I'll say on that. Picture that island with two big towers of sand with torches on top. Now, this is a view from, I'm not entirely sure whose house this is. I don't think it's Trevor's. I think it's that fellow who, he had this house, and I loved this house. It was a really neat looking house, but I'm not too sure, they demolished it and built a house full of water. Not too sure why they did that, but they did. Now there's a chicken named Gregory. He wanders the city. And there's a nice view of the lake and the breakwater and the park benches. Yeah, the city is really starting to come along these days. It's a far cry from how it started out. There's a bunch of parrots in a tree. They're not real parrots. They're spies. They're robots built by labs. But unfortunately, something went wrong during the development. And then all that these guys are interested in doing is sitting in this one tree, which is to the benefit of all of us. Now this is Mason's hockey arena, underground hockey arena, located in the underground village. And he did a fabulous job with this. Now you can see the updated streets out of the gray concrete powder, and the parkway along the lake. This is Lakeshore Drive in Phase 5. I really do like this area quite a bit. Now here's looking up at the new moon. Here's City Hall and Vav Apartments and the bank, R's roller coaster, Desoto Hotel, my skyscraper that at this point I had converted it to apartments. It's not nearly as good looking as it used to be, but at least this point it's somewhat functional. Here's a subway. Here's a glass tunnel out in the lands beyond the county. Here's another shot of Descrunge's treehouse, and at the top, there's a high dive, and I took the high dive, and I captured that in a video. And once again, if you're interested, I'll put a link to that video in the top corner, the top right corner of the screen. Now here's the view looking through the glass floor of the treehouse. That's a long, long way down. Now this is the Jensen Memorial Library. Yeah, there's a library inside of that giant villager. Now this is one of the county roads. There's the city wall on the right and the county wall on the left. And alongside the county wall there's a moat that allows a player to row a boat from one harbor and access many oceans and rivers and lakes all over the county and surrounding lands. There's Vinny's house. That's one of my favorite houses in Patronville. Another sunset from my back terrace. And the observation deck of R's roller coaster that I built for him. It used to be a purple ceiling, a purple roof, but he didn't really like it too much, so I kind of built him this. And I do like these screenshots. I built kind of a glass overhang and he's since modified it more to his liking. And there I am looking at the sunset. And there's a nice overhead view of the city. That building with the globe, that's the County Bureau of Exploration, featuring maps of all the major builds in and around Patronville, with teleport books to each one. Now next to that is the Graystone Publishing Company, and to the kind of northwest of that, to the left, that's the movie theater. And then the building with that glass dome, that's the museum. And then the building under construction will be Patronville University. Then there's two buildings, two big skyscrapers on the left. The one with the white ring around the roof is a law office, and the one next to it is, I believe that's the police headquarters. Then there's my building and City Hall, and then the many smaller buildings, the hotel and R's house, Cosby, the post office, the fire hall, that real nice house that the player has since turned into basically a glass swimming pool. MC Bass's house, Mason's house, Trevor's house with the waterfall, Vinny's house, Son of HD's house, Desoto's house, Pink's house, my house, and Death the Kid's White House. And there's one of the Atlas statues outside of City Hall. Nice shot down Main Street. And the other way down Main Street. And here I am riding the roller coaster at the underground village. It's a pretty neat roller coaster. Goes all the way through the abandoned mine shaft. And there I am getting shot at in the Patronville killing zone underneath City Hall. And I have a video where we mined out this room and built this entire killing zone from scratch and then tested it out. And it's a pretty long video. It was about 3 hours long. And I'll post the link to that video in the top right. There's some zombie pigmen trying to kill me, or rather, zombie piglins. Yeah, it's a pretty effective killing zone. And there's the upper level of the killing zone. Yeah, this is below City Hall. And it's Ep.4, but don't quote me on that. There's the MC Bass Public Works Yard with the grader and the street sweeper. Here's the skyline of Patronville in the distance. More or less how it is today, with ours new house. Now here we're inside the Patronville City Jail. This is a creepy, well, not creepy, but it's not a place that you want to find yourself. I wasn't imprisoned here. I was just doing a survey just to make sure things were up to scratch. You could see the guard in the tower keeping a watchful eye on the prisoners in the courtyard. And there is, this was the introduction video to the survival realm that R and I filmed. And this is the survival realm that players have access to. And if you're interested in joining the survival realm, I would tell you to leave a note in my mailbox, but I made R the other administrator of this realm. So you can, I'm pretty sure he can add the players to this realm in my absence. And if you want to check out this video, I've got, I'll post the link in the top right corner. I'm not sure how many links I can add in one video, but I guess I'll find out. I've got like 10 or more to add in this one, so we'll see. And there's the last shot of my skyscraper before I dismantled it. I liked the way that it looked, but I wanted to have a functional building. This didn't really serve any purpose other than looking good. And this iteration of the building didn't hold a candle to the old class building, so I figured I would build a direct staircase servicing all of the subway stations, as well as a PTA, the Patronville Transportation Authority, with offices that manage the city subway, the trolley, and all the other networks of transportation. Kind of a government agency. And that's what I built here. I built it like a 1940s office building with skyway to City Hall, and I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. Yeah, I like that, and it really gives a more commanding front fascia to City Hall. I still have to finish this building off once I regain access to my Minecraft account. that carpet, the white and the yellow and the blue, that's kind of a memorial to my old building that was made up of those colors. Here's the view from inside the Skyway, looking east down Main Street and kind of west down Main Street. And this is the last screenshot that I took, staring off at the sunrise down Main Street. So I hope to be back on the realm before too long, so I can take more screenshots, and also so that I can finish off my builds and help with new builds. And I'd also like to maybe start a new survival world, or at the very least re-upload a backup of my survival world, which is physically pretty much identical to how it was when it got corrupted, other than a lot of mining, which can be redone. It would just take some time. So hopefully before too long I will be back in both of these worlds, as well as the survival realm. So as always, I appreciate you taking the time to tune in to my channel and watch these videos, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this little screenshot series. This is the last one for a while, until I get enough screenshots to make a new video. But at least in this one, we were able to cover Patronville from its inception to the present day. So please feel free to leave a like, and if you're not already subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe to this channel. There probably won't be any new videos posted for the next few weeks, since I don't have access to my Minecraft account, but within the next month there will be videos posted once a week. So, until next time, I am truly yours, Izzy the Tiger. Thanks for watching.